Welcome to the 2026 AACA Winter Nationals here in Museum City, Cartersville, Georgia, the Lake Allatoona region. Thanks you for coming. We'd like to share a brief but interesting history of Georgia automotive manufacturing with our audience tonight. It is unknown to most people, even those involved in the automobile business, that Georgia has been home to 5 different vehicle manufacturers over the past 120 years. Over 18 million vehicles have been built in North Georgia, with more to come. Armstrong, Red Diamond, Myers, Primo, Martin, Billy Four, McNabb, Sims, Kriegshaber, Nor-X. While Georgia had several early automobile startups, unfortunately, few of these efforts resulted in a production automobile. Georgia's manufacturing output ranged from mass-produced cars to boutique efforts, primarily for the domestic market, but also a significant number of cars were built for the overseas market. The story begins with the White Star Automobile Company, which operated from 1903 to 1913. Here is a 1903 postcard showing Peachtree Street looking north from Marietta Street in Atlanta, where White Star Automobiles was located. Atlanta Buggy Company. In 1903, the Atlanta Buggy Company started at 544 Mean Street. Although they manufactured horse-drawn buggy components, they later moved into automobiles under the White Star trade name. By 1913, the Atlanta Buggy Company filed for bankruptcy, and very little evidence of the White Star automobile exists today. No collectors have successfully located one. Do you know where a White Star automobile can be found? Hanson. Next is Hanson Automobiles, which was in operation from 1907 to 1925. A Hanson was a true brass-era car. In 1907, George Hanson opened a bike shop in Griffin, Georgia. He was inspired to create a low-priced car for the Southern market, and he dismantled a Packard touring car for inspiration. George Hanson built an estimated 1,800 cars, but the post-war recession and competition from the Model T forced Hanson to close the factory in 1925, but not before Hanson introduced the Tourer, which was advertised at a bargain basement price of $995. One of the few remaining examples of the Hanson automobile is owned by the Atlanta History Center. Have you ever seen one? And now, we move on to the Ford Motor Company. Ford had a presence in Georgia from 1909 to 2006. Ford began with dealerships and parts depots, eventually opening a plant in 1915. Check out the early Ford assembly line and look at these Ford logos throughout the years. In 1915, Ford opened a plant at 699 Ponce de Leon Avenue, now the popular Ponce City Market. Ford built Model Ts, Model As, and V8 Fords until 1942, when war production took over. The Atlanta plant, in its earliest iteration, also built the southern axle for Model Ts. Sometimes called the Dixie track, this wider track axle allowed cars to fit into the wagon wheel ruts, which were prevalent in southern farm communities. In 1947, Ford completed the Hapeville plant. This was the company's first post-war facility, which gained acclaim for manufacturing the Ford Taurus and the Mercury Sable. The former Ford site is currently the home of the Porsche Experience Center Atlanta. The Ford Taurus was highly successful, with Motor Trend magazine naming it Car of the Year in 1986. GM. Our fourth manufacturer is General Motors. GM operations spanned from 1927 to 2008. Here's a beauty. It's a 1927 Chevrolet AA, which was assembled at the Lakewood plant in Atlanta. These images show the GM presence from the periods 1927 to 2008, illustrating the evolution of the manufacturing process in Georgia. The Doraville General Motors assembly plant concept originated during World War II while planning the transition to a peacetime economy. Work began on the Doraville plant in 1945, with the first cars produced in November 1947. Production reached full capacity by June 1948. The GM Doraville plant assembled various Chevrolet, Buick, Oldsmobile, Pontiac, and Saturn models, plus Vauxhall and Opel brands for export. Panoz. Our fifth manufacturer is Panoz, who produced sports racing and street cars from 1989 to 2017. It was quite unusual for this giant killer to be headquartered in Braselton, Georgia. Panoz was extensively involved in professional racing, designing and building their own race cars. The company strongly believed in the win on Sunday and sell on Monday motorsport marketing strategy. Georgia could very well be the key supplier to power the future of personal transportation. The future of auto manufacturing in Georgia includes new players, Hyundai, Kia, and Rivian, who have established 3 enormous plants with a combined production capability of over 800,000 cars per year. As we look back on the echoes of White Star, Hanson, Ford, GM, and others, new players are entering the scene in Georgia. With the move to alternate fuels and autonomous vehicles, the future of personal transportation is changing. Georgia is also heavily invested in electric vehicle battery production. The SK Battery Company employs over 3,000 workers to supply power sources for Volkswagen and Ford. And the Rivian R2 is slated to start production in Georgia later this year. Thank you for watching this brief history of automobile manufacturing in Georgia. The following sources were used in this video: Benson Ford Research Center, General Motors Heritage Archives, Standard Catalog of American Cars, the Keenan Research Center at the Atlanta History Center, Panoz Automobile Archives, Hyundai Corporation press releases. Written by Harry Cricks, produced by Marie Harrington.